God wants us to have real faith in Him as our provider. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. In this story, we see it's introduced to us by the fact that Abraham goes through a test. The Bible, in fact, very clearly says that God tested Abraham by telling him to take his son Isaac and sacrifice him. Of course, God knew that the sacrifice was not going to be something that was required of Abraham, but He's testing Abraham's faith. And so here is Abraham. He's got this long-awaited, miraculous son that's been given to him. He waited 25 years for the birth of Isaac. And then God says, I want you to take him to the top of Mount Moriah, and I want you to build an altar, and I want you to sacrifice this precious gift to me. Now, this had to be an extremely difficult test for Abraham. It was an extremely personal test for Abraham. Think about it, his very own son. And so what God is testing is very clear in verse number 1. If you go back and read Genesis 22:1, it says, sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. What is God testing? God is testing his faith. Do you really believe in me, Abraham? And will you prove that you believe in me? Will you put action to your statement of faith in me? And in fact, Abraham did. How do we know that Abraham had a personal faith in God? We know that he had a personal faith in God by what he said to God and what he said to those around him that day and what he said to Isaac, his very own son, that day, and by actually what he did. In fact, Abraham says to his servants as they're going up on the mountain, he says, we're going to go and worship and we will come back to you. And so he's declaring the fact that he believes that God is going to do an amazing miracle. His very words are affirming that he's going to come back with Isaac. He has this confidence. I'm going to read you a verse in a few moments out of the New Testament that emphasizes this. And in fact, he's confident when Isaac asks him, where's the sacrifice? And he says to Isaac, God will provide. And when there came that moment where Isaac is on the altar, Abraham lifts his knife and begins to take it down when God stops him. But what you see that Abraham declared real faith with his words and with his action. How do you know that you have a real faith? You know you have a real faith when in the midst of a test, your words are communicating your confidence in God and your actions continue to communicate your confidence in God. That when the test of your faith comes, is God really going to provide? That your words are, yes, I know that God will provide, and your actions are continuing to be in obedience to God, even when it seems like you don't understand or you don't know where provision is coming from.